Hello, lovely folks of YouTube. Ren here, or in this case, Ren's Hands. So, it is approaching Imbolc. I am leading our girls' Imbolc rite, and I wanted to make an incense for that rite. I am making a purification incense in order to support the work that we're doing, following along with the general vibes that nature is giving us. I'm making a purification incense in order to remove the obstacles that are hindering our growth in the future. This is the time of year when things are dying off. The weak die, the strong thrive. Things are kind of, those winter storms will clear out any of the weak branches in the tree, leaving the strong to grow. And basically what we're doing is kind of following that vein of nature. We want to clear away those things that are hindering us in order to better support the growth that we need in the future. So I have chosen 5 ingredients for this incense. I just love the number 5. I usually make things in either 3s or 5s, or sometimes if I get really woo, it'll be 7 or 9. But I find that 5 is a good number to work with. So I have 5 ingredients. All 5 of these ingredients have correspondences for purification, cleansing, exorcism, along those lines. All 5 of them also have correspondences for solar or fire energy. So they're all sort of amping each other up instead of fighting against each other. So the first ingredient I already have here in my mortar and pestle. This is frankincense. I've already started grinding this because frankincense is kind of a bear to grind, and I didn't want to have this be a 30-minute long video with 20 minutes of it being you watching me grind frankincense. So I've already gotten this one started. You can see the frankincense comes in bigger chunks like this. I've already ground it down much finer than that. It needs to be ground as finely as you can get it without sticking to itself. It does get sticky in order to burn better. Frankincense, of course, is the resin of trees in the Boswellia species. It is not native to here. It is native to very hot, dry climates like the Middle East, parts of Africa, I believe. But this was gifted to me. This isn't something I bought, but I am planning on buying it in the future. I do love the smell of frankincense. I was raised Catholic, and the Catholic frankincense incense was basically the only part of Mass that I really loved. So I'm really excited to be using frankincense in my own rites now. So that's what we started with, is frankincense. My recipe is using 3 parts of frankincense. Now, in this case, a part is basically whatever your measuring instrument is. I'm using teaspoons for my parts. Only making a small amount of incense. I only need enough for just a couple of rituals. If you were making larger amounts of incense, then you might use tablespoons instead of teaspoons as your parts. If you were making incense to sell on mass quantities, then you might use cups instead of spoons. If you do sell this, please credit me. That's all I'm going to say. But yes, in my case, I am using teaspoons as my parts for this. So I've started with 3 parts of frankincense, which I've already ground down a little bit. The next ingredient I'm using is cedar. And I have these here. These are my little leaf needle branches from what I have locally to me, which is the Thuja occidentalis, or eastern white cedar. It's also sometimes called the arbor vitae, or tree of life. It is a very, very frequently grown tree or landscaping hedge here in the Virginia area. It grows just about everywhere. This actually, I don't own one of these. I just picked a few little branches off of the trees that are growing along the drive leading up to the local park by my house. These trees grow to about like 40 to 60 feet tall, and you can't even tell where I picked anything because I'm very fastidious about when I do harvest from wild. I make sure I'm only taking a tiny little amount and I'm leaving plenty of the plant unharmed to grow and thrive. So this is my eastern white cedar, Thuja occidentalis. I'm going to take my little measuring spoons here, my teaspoon, and I'm just kind of going to eyeball, just kind of crunch it up into there. Yeah, that's about 1 teaspoon's worth right there. So we're just going to kind of crush these up in my fingers here before I add them to my mortar and pestle, because that will save me a little bit of work. And it also helps me pick out like this little stem piece here that isn't going to crush up very well. And you can see that I'm doing this on this sort of paper bag here for specifically this reason, because all these little pieces will fall, and that way I can just kind of fold them up and spill it back into my mortar and pestle. So if that was, one branch was about a teaspoon, then one of these should be about another teaspoon. Not being super exact here, kind of going with my gut. That's how magic works. You go with your gut. And what the hay, we'll add a little extra. I like cedar. So there we go. Got my cedar added into the mix, and I'm just going to start grinding that up with my mortar and pestle along with the frankincense. It is a bit of work getting this ground up. This is when you are focusing all of your energy and intent is in the process of grinding and making. You are going to purify the hell out of this space. Ooh, oh, that smells delicious. All right, we will grind that more as we add our next ingredients. So our next is rosemary. Rosemary, Rosmarinus officinalis. This is a powerful cleanser and purifier. We're going to add one part of this. So in my case, I'm using teaspoons. I'm going to do 1 teaspoon, and we're just going to add that right in. Rosemary is something that I grow. This is not from my particular rosemary. This was more of the rosemary that was given to me as a gift. I got a whole lot of herbs from one of my friends in Blue Star for my dedication gift, and I'm using these when I can for making incense, because that's also a way of being thankful for her gift that she gave me, because it was a tremendous gift. Alright, so there's our rosemary. Next ingredient I'm using is bay leaf, or Laurus nobilis. Most people are familiar with bay leaves. This is something that can grow here if you take some care. Bay leaves. Bay leaves, the laurel tree that these grow on, need slightly warmer temperatures than what we have here. It is possible to grow them here if you keep them sheltered in the wintertime. I have not yet invested the effort into keeping a bay leaf tree alive, which is why I don't have one, but I may change that in the future. So I'm going to use about 3 bay leaves. That should be about 1 teaspoon or 1 part. And this is one that I'm going to try and break it up as much as I can with my hands again before I put it into my mortar and pestle. And again, little pieces are going to go flying, and that is okay because they are on our paper here. And I know you may be thinking, boy, all of this would be so much easier if you used a spice grinder or a coffee grinder. And yes, you are absolutely right, but that's not where the magic happens. The magic happens in putting your effort and intention into this. So I'm putting the work into this, grinding this by hand, even though it is a lot of work. And yes, I realize I'm not doing a very good job of grinding this up. I'm probably going to finish the actual grinding portion once I'm done with the video rather than boring you all to death. So let's see. We have our frankincense, we have our cedar, we have our rosemary, we have our bay leaf. That's 4. Our 5th and final ingredient is cloves. Obviously not native here to the Americas. You can get them in the Caribbean, I believe they grow, but and in India and other tropical areas like that. I'm probably going to butcher the pronunciation of this one. It is Syzygium. Syzygium aromaticum. This is one that is, again, supposed to be really good for driving away hostile and negative forces. I'm going to use 1/2 of a part of cloves, simply because cloves, like cinnamon, can sometimes be a little irritating if you inhale too much of the smoke. So we're going to be a little careful about how much of these we use. These should grind up a little better. They got a nice fat body that really crushes well under the pestle. By the way, if you are looking for a mortar and pestle, I cannot honestly tell you where I got mine because I've had it for over 2 decades now. But this is a nice little hard ceramic porcelain one. You can get very reasonably priced mortar and pestle sets very often if you go to an ethnic market. For example, we have a supermarket near us called New Grand Mart that specializes, it is a supermarket, but it does all ethnic foods. They have the most amazing produce section. And they do have a little houseware section where you can get mortars and pestles. And I was very, very strongly tempted by the huge stone molcajete they had for only $15. But I just don't have the room in my cupboards right now. Maybe if I do some reorganizing, I can reward myself with a new molcajete. All right, so there we go. This needs more grinding just to get some of these bigger pieces ground down. And what I would probably do is, actually I will start doing this. I'm going to take a little spoon. Let me get up for a moment. There we go. So I'm going to get a little teaspoon, and some of this stuff that's already really ground down to a fine powder, I'm actually going to take that out and put that into my storage jar. You can see I already have 1 batch of incense that I've made, and this is my next batch. Now, it's kind of hard to get this in, so I actually have a little funnel. And I'm just going to take out some of these really finely ground pieces, put them into my funnel, and just tap that down. If there are anything that wouldn't fit through my funnel, then I know it's too big, and it can just go right back in there. Also going to just clean up my little paper work surface here. You can see where I wrote down my recipe here, just for easy reference while I'm working. There we go. Very easy cleanup there. Went right back into my mortar and pestle, ready to continue to be ground down. So that's basically all I have left now in order to make this purification incense, is just to continue grinding it. This is not a combustible incense, meaning that is something it needs an outside source of fire to be burned. Traditionally, it would be burned on the little charcoal discs about this big that are used for incense. I believe they also sell them for smoking hookah. I don't smoke hookah, so I can't confirm that, but I believe that when I look them up on Amazon, that's basically what Amazon tells me. So maybe that's true, who knows? You want to make sure that they are those little incense discs for incense or hookah, though. You do not want to use the charcoal discs. You don't want to use the charcoal briquettes that you would use for like an outdoor grill, because those things let off a tremendous amount of carbon monoxide. They are not safe for indoor use. The little charcoal discs are usually self-lighting. They are safe for indoor use. So those are what you want to use to burn your incense. And you basically light the charcoal disc, put it in your little brazier or a pot full of sand. It will get very hot. And just take a little pinch of your finished incense and just sprinkle it on top. And it will let off this big, impressive cloud of smoke that makes everyone go ooh and ah. And it smells delicious. So I hope you enjoy this recipe.